Hello, everyone. Welcome to our monthly webinar. Tonight's topic is routines that regulate. Back to the basics for a strong metabolism. And I'm going to hand it over to our presenters for this evening, Kate Caripio and Chris Combest.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Chris Combest, a board certified health and wellness coach. Thanks for carving out part of your evening for this. Fall does this thing every year where it sneaks up on your calendar before it shows up in the weather. School's back, the sun sets earlier, and somehow your whole daily structure just quietly falls apart.
We were just talking about that before we started the recording about how quickly the season has changed. Welcome, everyone. My name is Kate Caripio. I am also a board certified health and wellness coach. And Chris and I, we want to open with something that's a little blunt. We want to let you know that researchers at UNC Chapel Hill dug into national health data and found that only 1 in 8 American adults today are what's considered metabolically healthy. That means good blood sugar, good blood pressure, cholesterol, waist size, without needing medication to get there.
So if you're sitting there thinking, I feel basically fine, but something's a little bit off, statistically, you're in the majority, not the minority. And that's not a scare tactic. That's just where most of us are actually starting from.
And tonight, this isn't about a diet or a detox. This is about something more useful, regulation, and what that actually means, how you build it, starting tonight. So, who has ever heard of the word structure and immediately thought of restriction or boring? I want you to hold that thought for a minute because by the end of tonight, we are hoping to change that association. So let's define what it actually means when we say regulated.
So picture two versions of the same day. In one, your energy rises and falls in a smooth, predictable curve. Steady morning, normal dip after lunch, and then decent through the afternoon. In the other one, you're wired at 9, you're crashing by 11, you're starving by 1, and then by 4, you're just running on caffeine or caffeine and sugar. Same 24 hours, a completely different experience.
Yes, I've experienced that. The first is a regulated metabolism. The second is reactive. And the gap between them, it's not genetics. It's really the rhythm. When you eat, how consistently you sleep, whether your day has any predictable shape at all. And here's the thing that surprises people. Your body isn't running on one clock. It's actually running on dozens. Your liver has its own daily rhythm. So does your gut, your hormones, and your blood sugar regulation. There is an entire field of research on this called chrononutrition. And what it found is that when meals and sleep happen at wildly different times, day to day, those internal clocks, they stop syncing with each other. And that desync is actually linked to worse blood sugar control independent of what you're actually eating.
Yeah, and what that means is two people can eat identical meals, and the one with the steadier timing will handle it better. It's not just what's on your plate, it's actually when the plate shows up. So, who feels like their eating and sleeping schedule is different every single day of the week? That's common. And it's exactly what we're going to help you simplify tonight. So, if timing matters that much, what actually throws it off?
Well, skipped meals, late nights, constant stress, eating when you're standing up over the sink. I don't know if anyone has done that before.
Oh,
And
yeah.
none of these seem like a big deal on their own, right? But when you stack enough of them, your metabolism starts carrying the real weight. Think of it like an overloaded backpack.
So here's a reframe worth sitting with tonight. If your metabolism feels off, the more accurate word probably isn't broken, it's dysregulated. Broken sounds like something you're stuck with, but dysregulated is just a description of a pattern, and patterns can change. As I got older, I thought my metabolism was simply working against me. Perimenopause, many menopause ladies, anyone? Then I realized it was actually about the rhythm, not about my biology being unfair. So once I created a rhythm that worked for my body, everything changed. My body changed. I was able to lose fat while gaining muscle. My energy is higher. I sleep better. Everything started working the way it's supposed to. So, who's ever blamed their metabolism for something that might really have been irregular meals, poor sleep, or chronic stress? Probably a lot of you. I actually heard someone on the radio today. No, I was listening to a book, and it's the lady's like, and then my metabolism caught up with me. And I'm like, no, it didn't. But
Exactly.
so if you felt that way, you're not alone, and it's not your fault.
So if inconsistency creates the problem, rhythm is the fix. Now let's talk about why routines beat willpower.
Motivation. It's a great opening act and a terrible headliner. It shows up big for 3 or 4 days. Yeah, I'm going to do this. And then real life interrupts. Work gets loud, sleep gets short, and then your plan quietly dissolves.
And what actually works, it's not this burst of willpower, it's rhythm. Repeat it until your body stops questioning it. One of the simplest ways is to anchor your meal times, not to the minute, right? But if you have a rough window for breakfast and for lunch and for dinner, the same general zone every day.
Yeah, think of it like a thermostat, not a diet. Once your body knows the temperature it's aiming for, it stops overcorrecting. Fewer wild hunger spikes and fewer crashes and craves at that 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m. in the afternoon. Think about what time you ate breakfast today, or if you skipped it entirely. So let's talk
Hmm.
about the tools that actually build rhythm. There are 5 basics for your backpack this fall. Nothing fancy, just the fundamentals used consistently.
So, water first. Even mild dehydration causes fatigue and headache, brain fog, symptoms that actually can generally feel like hunger, and it affects how efficiently your body handles blood sugar. This, it is the cheapest tool in the bag by a mile.
Second one is a planner, not to micromanage your life, but because unscheduled things get bumped by whatever gets loudest that day.
And the third, I know it says movement on the slide, but I'm going to say shoes because a short walk after eating does more than people think. And we're going to get to why in a little bit.
The next is protein, and we will talk about that in a little while, but that is one of the most important.
And something to protect your sleep because this actually is the biggest item on the whole list and the one we protect the least. Think about these 5 tools. We have water, planning, movement, protein, or sleep. And the question that, we have for you is which one is currently the weakest link in your day? Let us know. Drop it in the chat.
What about you, Kate? What's yours?
Um, my biggest challenge, I think, is movement at this moment. So I think the other ones I have down pretty solid, but finding that time, it's as we just talked about, you mentioned that the day happens and I haven't prioritized it as I should.
Yeah, I see a lot of people saying sleep. That's definitely mine.
Yeah. All right.
All right, let's start with one of the biggest disruptors of your schedule, and that's skipping meals. A lot of people wear this like a badge of honor. I don't have time to eat. But when you go too long without food, your blood sugar dips and your body starts treating that gap like an emergency instead of just a normal Tuesday.
Right. And when you finally eat, you're not reaching for something that's balanced, you're starving. And a starving brain wants fuel fast. So, once again, that's not willpower, that's your body actually reacting from a biological standpoint because it has this unpredictable rhythm.
Yeah, and there's real data behind the bigger pattern too. Researchers tracking meal timing over time found that people with more irregular eating schedules had a harder time keeping weight off long term, even when eating the same food as someone else. It really is when you eat, not just what you eat.
And I want to share something that happened to me just a couple weeks ago. And I'm going to say up front, this isn't me recommending this, right? It's just something to be aware of. It's actually closer to the opposite, but I found it fascinating and I thought it was really important as we talk about this topic of timing. So, for those of you who are familiar with our program, you know that it's built around eating every 2.5 to 3 hours. We're spreading out our meals, we're balancing our protein or carbs, our healthy fats, so that your blood sugar doesn't spike, right? Well, the new product line had come out, and I agreed to do a 2-week reset to test it firsthand. I was pretty confident that I wasn't going to see any changes, right? I'm in a healthy BMI. I wear a continuous glucose monitor. I track everything down to the macro. And after 1 week, the scale was down 3.2 pounds. My visceral fat score dropped. My metabolic age dropped a year. I lost an inch off my waist in 7 days. And I had no idea why. So I actually pulled the data off my glucose monitor app for 12 days before this reset, and I compared it to everything that I ate during the reset to figure out what changed. Well, two things came up. First, I was having healthy fats every morning, half and half of my coffee, omega-3 oils, but I tracked them, I counted them, so it was all good. But on the reset plan, that's not part of the reset, right? You just don't have that by itself. So I paused. I stopped drinking coffee because I like having half and half in it. I didn't do the omega-3 oil. And so that was one thing that I did. I wanted to save my healthy fats for my salad dressing and to cook dinner. The second thing that I noticed was I have been doing intentionally some intermittent fasting. Other than the coffee and oil, my first meal really wasn't until around 11. And, I'm in what's called the optimization phase. So that was a deliberate choice on my part, not something that just happened. But on the reset, I switched to eating every 2.5 to 3 hours. I balanced my protein and carbs. Whereas before, I was actually leaning heavy on high protein snacks with very little carbs. And that shift completely changed how my body was processing food. It started using my visceral fat for energy, and I could not have been more surprised. So, no, I'm not telling you to go and try intermittent fasting. Actually, the opposite. This is what it taught me is that I'm going back to fueling my body every 2.5 to 3 hours consistently because that's the thing that visibly changed everything for me in just 1 week. Craziness.
Yeah, so on the same thing as the intermittent fasting, who's ever skipped lunch because they were too busy? But then by the time 8 o'clock came around, you're eating every single thing in sight. And that's the gap that we're talking about. So let's build meals so you don't have to think that hard about it.
And we are going to call this default meals. And that is a small rotation of meals that you actually enjoy and that you don't have to deliberate over, right? So think of it as maybe 3 go-to breakfasts, maybe 3 lunches that you go, yeah, I can have this. And, 5 dinners, just that when all things are chaotic, these are your go-tos. Chris, do you have any go-tos?
Yeah, we do. Fortunately, we could eat the same thing kind of over and over every single night. We eat a
That
lot.
makes it easier.
Yep. We eat a lot of stir fry. And one of our go-tos is just a salad, just some lettuce, maybe some peppers, cucumbers with chicken on it, and a hard-boiled egg. It's
Right.
simple, it's easy, it's good, and we eat it probably 2 or 3 nights a week just because it's
Awesome.
simple.
Yeah, good.
So, yeah, because normally we put so much pressure on every meal trying to be interesting, but regulation loves repetition. Familiar meals at familiar times is one less variable for your body to react to.
Right. So instead of standing in front of the refrigerator every night going, sounds good, right? You already know. And that predictability is exactly what keeps your rhythm steady. I know one of the things that I'll do is make cauliflower lasagna. And I know that that whole lasagna feeds, I get 7 meals out of it. So that's something that helps me. And actually, sometimes when I make it, I split it into 2 pans. I get 4 out of one, 3 out of another. So I can put one right in the freezer, and that helps. But once again, takes the guessing out of it.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, and it saves that text every day. What are we having for dinner tonight? What are we having
Right.
for dinner? So, all right. So now the nutrient that's doing more regulating work than almost anything is protein. Protein has become a buzzword, like protein Pop Tarts. I saw protein Cheerios today. No,
Craziness.
protein doesn't make them any better for you, especially the Pop Tarts. But protein, it really earns the hype. It's one of the strongest tools your body has for steadying your blood sugar and your hunger.
And eat enough, especially earlier in the day, and it actually starts slowing your digestion. It steadies your blood sugar, and it keeps you full for hours, not the 20 minutes that a carb-loaded breakfast could do.
And there's real data on this too. A Journal of Dairy Science study found that people who ate more protein at breakfast had steadier blood sugar and less hunger later in the same day compared to a lower protein breakfast. Same amount of calories, different income, different outcome just from the protein.
Yeah, it's fascinating, really. And here's the connective tissue. Literally, muscle is one of the biggest storage sites for glucose in your body, and protein builds and maintains it. Movement uses it. So they're a team, okay? They're not these two separate to-do items, right? So your protein and your movement working together. So many people that we talk to struggle to get protein in early in the day. They think that by loading up at dinner, all's going to be okay. I'm here to tell you that's not the case. The goal is to balance what we're having, right? There are many different ideologies and theories about the right amount of protein. And I'm going to tell you that every body is different. But from what we've seen and all of the clients that we worked with, unless a doctor tells you otherwise, we like to see most people getting around 100 grams of protein a day. So think about this. Some people are eating 3 or 4 times a day. Many of us have learned to eat six. The goal is to balance your protein and carbs throughout the day, right? I just shared my story with you earlier about not actually balancing them and then having that high protein with lower carbs. It wasn't serving me. It wasn't hurting me. My weight was consistent. I felt good. But when I saw that I could burn visceral fat for energy when tweaking what I was doing, that made all the difference to me.
But regulation falls apart fast when one off day turns into starting completely over. So let's talk about that cycle. You restrict hard all week and then you fall off on the weekend because it's the weekend. Then you start feeling guilty and you're like, oh, I might as well just wait for Monday and start over. That's not regulation, that's a roller coaster. And your body has to readjust every single time you get back on whatever plan you're on. Who's ever said, all right, I've already blown it today. I might as well just keep going this weekend. I'll start again on Monday.
Oh, Chris, I can't tell you the amount of times that I've heard that. And here's the thing, consistency, even imperfect consistency, regulates better than perfect restriction, followed by total abandonment. That roller coaster example is just, it's perfect, right? One off meal doesn't undo your rhythm. It's that pattern of resetting that does.
Recovery means going back to your normal rhythm at the very next meal, not Monday, the next meal.
Mhm.
Now, Kate talked about a glucose monitor, and I've been wearing one as well just to see how different foods affect my blood sugar. So everything was going well. It was very predictable. So someone said, well, are you trying anything that negatively affects your blood sugar? And I was like, no. And they're like, well, you should do that just to see. So of course I bit, ate a candy bar as a sugar addict, not a perfect thing, but no surprise, my blood sugar skyrocketed and then just completely tanked. But I could have seen that as an invitation to eat more sugar. Like, well, I already ate a candy bar today. It's only noon. I've got the whole rest of the day. I'll start again tomorrow. How about let's go get some candy corn? But I didn't. I got back on my schedule. I ate some protein, went back to my 2.5 to 3 hours. It leveled everything out, and I went back to being regulated.
So, so when Chris shared this with me, I told her she needs to be careful who she listens to. If someone told her to go jump off a bridge, would she do it? So just because you're challenged to what does it look like when you eat a candy bar? Don't do that. No, no, no. But how awesome that Chris recognized it and followed it up with protein and didn't have her go into that downward spiral. So, Chris, well done. Proud of you. So, next, I'm just going to say next time someone says something like that, text your coach.
Yeah.
All right. So, none of us stay perfectly consistent forever, right? Chris just shared an example of how, and we all do it, right? We all have different things. But the people who feel steady long term aren't the ones who never had a day off, right? An off day. They're the ones who return to the rhythm quickly. So, one of the best tools for protecting that rhythm for long term is strength.
Yeah. A lot of us, especially women, grew up on outdated ideas about lifting weights. You'll get bulky, just do cardio, whatever. None of that holds up. I used to avoid the weight room for the exact same reason that a lot of you probably still do. And it turns out that fear cost me years of building the muscle that my body actually needs.
And here's a number worth remembering. Skeletal muscle handles roughly 70 to 80% of the glucose your body clears after a meal, right? So that's a big deal. That's not this like supporting thing. This is the main event. Every strength session is quite literally expanding your capacity to regulate your blood sugar.
Yeah, think about your muscle as a metabolic reserve. Every walk, every strength session, every consistent meal is a deposit you won't feel tomorrow, but you'll absolutely feel it in 10 or 20 years. Besides muscle, other regulators are sleep and stress.
So everyone wants more energy, but almost nobody wants to go to bed earlier to get it.
Sleep isn't downtime, it's when your body does its most important regulating work. It's when your hormones get balanced, your tissue gets repaired, and it resets your blood sugar sensitivity for the next day. And the effect is bigger than people expect. Researchers publishing in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism found that a single night of short sleeping, that means sleeping less than 6 hours, reduced insulin sensitivity by roughly 20 to 25% in otherwise healthy adults. That's one night. Now stretch that across a month of inconsistent sleep, and everything's thrown off.
And you talked earlier about that badge of honor for people who, were too busy, skipping their lunch because they're too busy, which I did, but I also kind of wore my lack of sleep as a badge of honor. Not intentionally, but I was like, oh yeah, I got 5 hours. Oh Lord. Right.
Yeah.
But stress plugs directly into this as well, right? Not alongside it. Your body doesn't know the difference between a real emergency or an inbox, like when your email is super full. And when your cortisol stays elevated, it does two things. It tells your liver to release more glucose, and it tells your muscle to absorb less of it. And that's not this like vague mind body idea. That's the actual mechanism. So, the question, what time did you go to bed last night versus what time do you wish you had? Right? No judgment, just awareness. Chris, that was one of the things I knew you and a lot of people in the chat said sleep was an issue. So, what time did you go to bed last night? And
About 11,
and what time did you want to go to bed?
9:30 or 10.
Okay. All right. So you could start working on some tools, right? That was one of the things that you said was one item. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. Yeah, that's definitely something I need to work on because, have a good plan. It's going to be 9:30 and then I look up, it's 10 to 11 and I'm still
Yeah.
doing stuff. So
Yeah. Yes.
sometimes the most powerful regulating decision, though, that you make all day isn't in the kitchen or the gym. It's turning off the lights 30 minutes early, or in my case, 60 minutes earlier.
Right. You got to know yourself, right? That's
Yep.
perfect. And you can hear this, right? None of this is like this complete overhaul craziness. It's built from these small, repeatable habits.
Yeah, and this might be the biggest takeaway of the night. A regulated metabolism isn't built from one dramatic change. It's small, consistent habits repeated until they're automatic.
Right. People often think, I need a whole overhaul or, my whole life is a mess. No, you just need to regulate today, Thursday, and then you can regulate tomorrow, Friday.
Exactly. James Clear said it best. You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems.
Right. And in real life, that's a glass of water per coffee, a walk after dinner, lights off 30 minutes, or in Chris's case, 60 minutes, right? None of it is dramatic. But when you start repeating this for weeks, it changes how steady you feel every day.
Yeah. And that walk after dinner, I mean, we're not talking anything big, we're talking 10 minutes.
Mhm.
And that isn't just a nice idea. A 2022 meta-analysis in sports medicine found that short walks after meals really blunt your blood sugar spikes more than just standing does or sitting down to watch television. 10 minutes. That's it. That's the whole ask.
Right. So where should you actually start? So we're going to ask you to do a report card, right? And this is not to judge, but to find the one area that when you regulate will really help regulate everything else.
We've covered rhythm, meals, mindset. Now, just a quick judgment-free look at where your own regulation stands. No grades tonight, just awareness, because awareness is where change starts.
And when we start working with someone, we typically don't say, how much weight do you want to lose? Right? It's more of, hey, what part of your rhythm feels most out of sync right now? And for some, it's meal timing. And others, it is sleep.
So let's walk through it. Meal timing, roughly consistent. Is your meal timing roughly consistent, or does lunch happen anywhere between 11 and 4? I know I used to be like that. Then we have hydration, protein spread out throughout the day, movement, not punishment, just some consistency, and sleep and stress, which go together. And here's what we've learned working with hundreds of people. You rarely need to fix all 6 at once. Usually one habit regulates the rest. Find that one lever and everything else tends to follow. So take a few seconds and we'll be sending out this sheet also after. Quietly grade yourself in each area. No guilt, just honesty. Then ask which single area, if it improved, would regulate everything else the most. And that's your starting point. Now let's give everyone something simple to take home tonight.
So we don't want this just to be interesting. We really want you to look at this as a challenge. Okay. So this is just a 7-day challenge, not 30, not forever, 7 days. So for the next 7 days, we want you to eat roughly on a consistent rhythm. Include a protein at every meal. Move your body daily. Protect a consistent bedtime. Plan tomorrow's meals tonight and give yourself grace if there's an imperfect day. All right. And then we're going to repeat it.
Yeah, and notice what isn't on that list. No calorie counting, no eliminating entire food groups, no perfection is required.
Right. And after 7 days, you're not going to see 7 pounds lost, but you'll likely notice steadier energy, fewer cravings, better sleep, and a body that feels less reactive. And that matters just as much. So who's willing to commit to 7 days? Why don't you put it in the chat? 7 days to go through this on a regulation reset. Awesome. Great. So no one's alone. We're all doing it together. Perfect.
And 1 week from now, you'll either feel more regulated or you'll wish you had started earlier. Back to school season always comes with a fresh start built in for kids, new routines. It's a reset nobody has to ask permission for. And adults deserve that same reset, and it doesn't require a perfect past to claim it.
That's right. I've been inconsistent for too long, or my metabolism is already set. Like, nope, neither of those has to be true. Regulation can start with your very next meal. And that's what Chris had talked about earlier.
It isn't about having a perfect week behind you. It's about building a rhythm that your body can trust, one consistent decision at a time. Excuse me, not next Monday, not next January, the very next one. And before we close, I want to share a story. Do the scary thing. It may turn out better than the fear in your head. I started going to the gym and I was terrified. There were guys that were working out with us. I was one of the oldest women. I thought I wouldn't fit in. I thought I wouldn't be able to keep up, but I kept going because I felt good and I knew I needed to. I kept going even though I was scared. I set a new rhythm in my week. I lift weights 3 times a week, and now I can't do without that rhythm in my workouts. And most days, I outlived the little young women and I outworked the men. So the moral is committing to a new rhythm feels exactly like fear right up until it doesn't.
I think the moral is Chris is a rock star and we should follow her example with the exception of eating the candy bar.
Yeah.
So building a regulated rhythm can feel exactly the same at first. Consistent meal timing feels awkward. An earlier bedtime feels like a sacrifice. Strength training, as Chris just mentioned, it feels intimidating until one day it doesn't. It just feels like your life.
Do the scary thing, do the hard thing. Sometimes the habit you're most hesitant to start becomes the one that you're most grateful for.
Absolutely. And remember, a regulated metabolism isn't built by people who never slip. It's built by people who keep returning to the rhythm. One meal, one walk, one night of sleep at a time.
So I'll leave you with this. A strong metabolism isn't built on one perfect day. Believe me, none of us are perfect. It's built in thousands of ordinary days where you choose rhythm over chaos. So this fall, protect your meals, protect your sleep, protect your movement. And remember, structure isn't restrictive, it's regulated. Thanks so much for spending your evening with us. We hope you leave feeling encouraged, not overwhelmed, because real regulation should give you more life, not more rules. And if something tonight made you think, I'd really love help building this rhythm, we'd love to talk to you afterwards. No pressure, no sales pitch, just a conversation to get you started.
Okay, and one more thing before we go, on September 17th, it's a Thursday, Joanne and I will be walking you through stress resilient metabolism, building strength as the season shifts. So you can go ahead and scan that QR code to register to receive the Zoom link. So just give it a few seconds to see, make sure everyone has it. And we will send out the recording, hopefully by tomorrow with that little 7-day, it's not a calendar challenge that we talked about.
So we hope to see you next month. And thanks and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, everyone.